trip, or that's not a far trip, by the way. I'm already pretty close. So opposites and absolute value. First thing it looks like they touch on is opposites. So we're going to go ahead and go there. Oh yeah, yeah. Opposites. If a number is positive, I'm just using the variable, then its opposite is a negative. Okay? For example, 2's opposite is -2, right? In the same way, if a number is negative, then its opposite, OPP, is positive. Other than my friends from overseas, can all of y'all read my cursive? Because printing's killing me. All right. They're just going to have to keep up. I'll try and do it as best I can. Okay. Last one. If you're talking about 0, its opposite is 0. There is nothing. I know. Okay, so I gave you some examples. All right. So the summary statement, what they say is this. The opposite of a negative number is a positive. Therein, the other way around, the opposite of a negative number is a positive. Okay, so when they use the word, or when they precede something with a negative, you can think of it as the opposite of a negative. Okay, so this little summary, maybe it helps you, maybe it doesn't, but that is the last statement there in the gray boxes, or gray box on page 36. So the samples I have for you. Here we go. I know. Nobody better doze off. This is very difficult material.
Oh my gosh, this is remarking life and death.
The opposite of the sum of 6 and 2. Okay? What is the sum of 6 and 2, folks? 8. What is the opposite of 8?
Negative.
Negative. There's your answer. Okay? I know. It rocks. In contrast, the opposite of -2/3 is going to be what? The opposite of a negative is a positive. The opposite of a negative is a positive. Okay? 2/3, I'm sorry. Watch it now.
I'm about to fall asleep.
Don't fall asleep. Here we go. We're going to continue on with evaluating some stuff. Okay, we're going to evaluate. It's quite simple. Here we go. This is their example too, but I'm using my own. Again, I try to just use the topical similar examples. Okay, so we're going to evaluate if t is -4. Well, okay. If t is -4, what's the absolute value of t, folks? Yep. Okay. You plug in your number for t, solve for absolute value. There's your end result. And the other one I have for you. The opposite of t plus 9. This is still the most commonly missed thing that I see even in upperclassmen doing Algebra 2 and other topics. The opposite of t. Tell me what t is again. Okay? Watch very carefully. What I'm finding people do is simply say, well, this negative must mean it's a -4. Nope, this negative precedes what t is. Okay? The negative precedes the t. And since t is a negative, it looks like that. So your answer should be 13. Any questions on those before I jump ahead? Yes, sir.
If there was parentheses around T and there was a plus sign in front of it, what would that be?
So still a negative. Yes?
Yeah, like T still equals -4. No, not the one, just
He's
like
still equal to
parentheses.
The one
-4, but
inside.
there's a plus in front of it instead of a minus, so it wouldn't be opposite, they're just the same thing.
Greek. Come here. Show me what you're asking.
Like,
Tell me what to write.
like, so put
Mhm.
parentheses,
Parentheses.
and then put a plus sign,
Mm-hmm.
and then put T.
Mm-hmm.
And
Great.
then put another parentheses and ignore that.
You can't ignore that. Since that's there, you have to. Or do you want me to scratch it out?
Yeah.
Okay, scratch this off. Okay, so he's saying, what about this? Well, then it is a positive -4.
So.
Still a -4. Mm-hmm. Great question, though. You might see that. Oh. Absolute value. So we've just done opposites. Can I flip this, dudes? I just said dudes. I think I'm taking your cold medicine there, Philip.
Yeah.
Absolute value. So what we learned back in the day is the distance from the graph of the number and the 0 indicates what absolute value is. All right? But they've broken it down. So if A is a positive number, then the absolute value of that number is the number itself. In other words, the absolute value of 6 is 6. Okay, that is their first description utilizing less words. The second thing, if your number is a negative, as in negative A, then the answer is still a positive. A is negative like that, then the absolute value will still be a positive. For example, absolute value of -12 is 12, okay? Pretty simple. Lastly, the absolute value of 0 is 0. I'm not going to go any further with that. So whatever the number is in the box, positive, pops out. Now here's something to watch out for. The opposite of the absolute value of 22. Yep. The opposite of the absolute value of -8. Bravo. Because its absolute value is 8, the opposite thereof. Okay? Fantastic. So there's some tips on absolute value. We're going to fly through this real quick. Example 3. Is there anybody in here that's never seen this? No. Absolute values. Here we go. How about the sum of the absolute value of -4 combined with a 7's absolute value? Y'all coming up with 4 plus 7 here? Okay. Or maybe, dun dun dun, the absolute value of the difference of 7 and 4 is the absolute value of 3. 3? Sound good? All right. I want one a little more interesting than that. Here's the third one. They don't have a third one, but I do. Okay. The absolute value of -18 combined with the product of 2 and the absolute value of -2. Okay? 18 plus 2 multiplied by 2, right? The absolute value of -2 is 2. Since this precedes it, that means multiply. 18 and 4, 22?
Yep.
Awesome. Last thing, solve. They're going to say stuff like solve, and they might also say stuff like evaluate. Example 4. What if they say the absolute value of x is 8? What can x equal? In other words, what single numbers can provide you with an absolute value of 8? There's two answers. What two numbers can provide you with an absolute value of 8?
Negative 8 and 8.
8 and negative 8. If you do not put both, it's wrong. Okay, how can I test this? Well, the absolute value of negative 8 indeed is 8, just like the absolute value of 8 indeed is 8, okay? Watch out for those. There's a handful of those today towards the end, 30 through 40. There's some of those, okay? Here's one for you. Can I flip?
What's that? Third page?
I don't know, maybe. Still in example 4. What numbers will produce an absolute value of negative 9?
Opposite 9.
Wait, 9 and negative 9.
Nope. 9 produces a value of 9.
Opposite of 9, negative 9.
There is no solution. And I'm going to show you why. There is no value I can plug in for B to create an absolute value of negative 9. So let's just say I say B is 9. Its absolute value is 9. So that's a no. Maybe it's a negative 9. Does it have an absolute value of negative 9? No. You were trying to answer it by saying, well, the opposite of something. Wonderful. But they're not looking for you to go that far. They're saying, is there anything that can actually fit and produce, in this situation, an absolute value of negative 9? And that is no solution. Okay? So anything, when they're asking you for the absolute value of something and they give you the absolute value of something equals a negative, it's a no solution. In contrast, this is the last thing. What answers will work here? Then you got a 2 and a negative 2. Because it goes negative 2, that's true. Negative, negative 2, also true. So both of these scenarios does indeed produce an absolute value of 2. That's the toughest stuff you're going to come to today. The opposite of negative 2. Yeah. Yeah. I just put parentheses around it. Sometimes people see it, sometimes, it doesn't matter, but okay. So this literally would create this, which of course is still true anyway. Great question. Usually you won't see the 2 dashes like that. Normally it's parentheses, but sometimes people get nervous about that. Good question. Anything else before I go away?